Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my monthly update for pan in every palette. The goal for this project is that one day every palette I own will have a pan showing in it. It's gonna be a while. I currently own 388 palettes that have pans in them. The amount of pans in the palette may be as low as 2, maybe as many as 100, but I have 388 palettes. That is up 1 from last month. I did receive the Pat McGrath palette over the past month for review, complimentary through Influencer, and so my number went up from 387 to 388. But unfortunately, the amount of palettes with pan in them remains at 25. Luckily, my overall pan percentage has not changed. I am still at 6.4%. I'm glad that number didn't go down because of adding a new palette in. I bet if I add one more palette in, that number will go down, but hopefully we're only going to be adding pans, which is the goal. I am working on 4 palettes at a time in this project, 1 face palette and 3 eyeshadow palettes, and once I hit pan in one of those palettes, it rolls out and I could roll something new in to take its place. Of course, if I hit pan on another palette that's not part of this project, it counts towards my overall pan percentage, but I didn't hit any pans in any other palettes in any projects over the past month, other than palettes that already have pan. So let's get into the update. There's not much to talk about. For the 3 eyeshadow palettes, I use them all once, which is my minimum requirement. I don't always meet my minimum requirement even, but at least I met my minimum requirement. But first of all, I have my Too Faced Razzle Dazzle Berry palette, and I'm trying to hit pan on the most gorgeous shade ever. This one right here, I used it once, and I did use the matte shade, the matte like purpley pinky shade with it, and that might have been it. I think I just used those 2 shades in the past month. Love that shadow, love this palette. Every time I use it, I enjoy it very much, but I only used it once. I also used my Pure Visionary palette one time. I used several shades for a look. I used Dreamer, which is the shade I'm pretty sure I'm gonna try to hit pan on. Actually, I might have used this palette twice, but I did not use any one shadow more than once. I might have used this palette twice in the past month, but I didn't use any shadow more than once. But I used Dreamer, I used Rebel, where are you? Rebel. I used Girl Boss, I used Idealist, and I used Role Model. So I used each of those shades one time in the past month. I really enjoy this palette a lot. I'm so glad it's in this project. I don't have a lot of uses yet, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And the third palette that I only used one time is my Jouer Skinny Dip. I love this palette so much. I did a look using both Skinny Dip and tan lines. I used Skinny Dip like on the inner half of my eyelid and tan lines on the outer half of my eyelid. So I used these 2 shades one time. Skinny Dip is the one that I've decided I want to try and hit pan on. It is definitely my favorite shadow in this entire palette. It's got this kind of slight tinge of green. It's kind of like a mix of silver and gold with a little bit of green, and I love it. I think it's funky, and I love it. But I only used it once in the past month. The palette I used the most over the past month is one that just rolled in at last month's update, and that is this Tarte Clay Play Volume 1 palette. Yep, this is Volume 1, and I'm using a powder in this palette as an under eye setting powder. I have no idea what these powders are designated as according to Tarte, but I am using it as an under eye setting powder, so I'm calling this a face palette. The shade I'm working on is this lightest shade right here. I'm reaching for it almost every day that I do my makeup, so I used this 23 times since last month's update, which is pretty good. I'm very happy to have gotten so much use out of it. I did also use a couple of these other shades as eyeshadows yesterday. Actually, I was running really late for work, and so rather than pulling out other eyeshadows, I just threw this one and this one all over my eyelid. They worked really nice, but I am focusing mostly on this shade right here. This is super powdery, super duper powdery. I think from what I understand, Tarte pans are often pretty deep, like comparable to the depth of a Too Faced eyeshadow pan. So I was expecting this to take me a really, really long time to hit pan on, but I am kicking up so much powder every time I use it that I don't think it's gonna take that long at all. I feel like it's gonna go quickly. But I've already used it 23 times and obviously there's no pan. I'm wearing it as my under eye setting powder today and I really like it. Yeah, I like it as my under eye setting powder. I think it's doing a good job. Like I said, I'm not sure if this was intended to be used as a face powder or if it's supposed to be an eyeshadow, but it's working well as an under eye setting powder and I really enjoy it. And I'm so glad that I am finding things within my collection that I already own to use as under eye setting powders, because if you guys have been with me long enough, you know that when I finished off my Hourglass, I think it's called Diffused Light setting powder, I was devastated because I thought it was the best setting powder I'd ever used in my entire life. And I just thought, I need to replace this. I need to buy it again. And I thought, nope. Keep shopping your stash. You can find something to use. You got more stuff. Keep going. Dig deep. And then I found the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Palette, and I absolutely fell in love with those two powders for under eye setting powders. And then I used those up, and I became despondent again. Like, okay, I need to go. I'm not going to buy the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Palette, but I do think they sell those shadows as singles, maybe. So I thought I either need to buy those singles or I need to buy the Hourglass Diffused Light. Like I was back on Hourglass and I thought, no, Paula, calm down, keep shopping your stash. And here we are again. I found a powder that I'm really liking for my under eyes. And one of you guys have reminded me that I also really like my Laura Mercier translucent loose setting powder for my under eyes, and I haven't used that in a long time, but I like that for an under eye setting powder as well. So every time I use up something, I get a little panicky and I have a need to go out and buy my Hourglass powder that I know I'm going to get one day. Well, I think I'm going to get one day if I ever use up all of the powders I have that I can use as under eye setting powders. But surprise, surprise, every time I look, I find another setting powder that works quite well. I have found one that didn't work quite well, but you know, most of these powders that I'm using work really well as under eye setting powders, and I'm very happy with all of them. So long story short, I am very happy to be using another powder within my collection that works well as an under eye setting powder, because that seems to be a product I actually go through. I'm actually using up under eye setting powders probably faster than I'm using up any other powder within my collection, whether that's an eyeshadow, a blush, a bronzer, or a face powder. I really need an under eye setting powder because I want to look awake every day. And so I use them very consistently and I just kind of stick with them until they're gone. But yeah, I'm rambling now. Anyways, I used the shade 23 times over the past month and it's very powdery. I think it's gonna go quickly, but I'm enjoying it a lot. I like the shade very much for setting my under eyes. For those of you that have this palette, tell me, how did you use this shade? Did you use it as an eyeshadow? Did you use it as another type of powder for your face? I'm wondering, but I'm very happy. I feel like I've gotten a good start on this palette. I'm very disappointed with the other three palettes, but I'm very happy with how I did with this one over the past month. I really feel like I should pick one of the three palettes to kind of try to focus in on, at least use it like 5 times over the next month, because I'm just not getting anywhere with these. I like these palettes all so much, I don't know which one to pick. I feel like I should try to focus in on the Jouer palette a little bit more. It's probably been in this project the longest at this point. I also don't feel like I'm anywhere near hitting pan on any of these. Like if I looked like I was close to hitting pan on something, I'd say, well, let me zero in on that and try to hit pan on it. But I'm not anywhere near hitting pan on anything. I don't know. I'm going to try and give those 3, or at least one of those 3, a little bit more love over the next month so that I have something interesting to talk about other than that face palette. But that is it for this update, you guys. Did I mention that this project was originally created by Lady Pans-A-Lot over on Instagram? This project has been done in many different ways with many different names to the project, but Pan in Every Palette was created by Lady Pans-A-Lot, and there's a bunch of us that have been doing it or have done it in the past. I will leave those people's names in the description box so you could check them out if you're interested in discovering some other project panners that have similar content, either here on YouTube or over on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.